Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who is helping me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Roman Fischer, who describes to us his passion for fitness, nutrition, all a result of his grandfather, who did not follow a good plan for fitness and nutrition. He took that as a passion, as his inspiration to do better, to help others, himself first, and then to help others determine their nutritional plans, health, and to take a long-term look at your health and the benefits of what you eat, what you intake, everything about health and nutrition. Marty, what are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Roman?
Roman walked us through the steps. The first step, making the decision to have a healthier lifestyle, doing the research and saying to me when I asked him the question, writing down the sodium he was taking in each day. Through his research, he found how he can eat better, and now he coaches people to show them and help them have a healthy, happier lifestyle.
It's a very inspirational podcast and pretty simple to follow if you just make the decision. Know the nutrition labels and know what the maximum minimums are, and it's a matter of intake and output. Let's listen and learn together. Roman, it is good to have you with us. You are one of the few individuals, I made very possibly in our listening audience, who made a life decision for food and nutrition based on your grandfather and other family member who passed away because of poor nutrition habits. And it seems, Roman, based on what you observed of their life, you made the life determination, I'm not going to do what caused them to pass away, their poor eating habits. Rather, you're going to take on a new lifestyle. Roman, it's good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
You went through a tragic life experience, having to experience the death of your grandfather. Did you know right away what it was, that it was their poor eating habits that was the root cause of their demise, or was there something more to it?
Yeah, so there were definitely a few different factors, no doubt, that, played a role and a part in his ultimate passing. There were a few different things. One in particular, he didn't really ever, take too well care of his body with his outer body with his skin. He never really wore sunscreen or any protection from the sun. So he definitely was exposed to a lot of the sun's, UV rays and the harmful UV rays that the sun gives off from day to day. So he did develop some skin cancer, but in addition to that, he also had cancer from within his body. And it was linked, some of that was linked to his heavy, high sugar addiction too throughout his diet in his life.
So you learned, I'm guessing, Romans through physicians, maybe an autopsy. These were the cause of his ultimate demise. And it was from that you made the decision, I'm going to change my nutrition pattern. I'm going to be what I call a chain breaker. I'm going to do things different. Have I oversimplified it?
No, that's definitely on point. That's 100% correct. Yeah, I mean that really, while it did, of course, naturally, put me in that depression for a bit, it also at the same exact time, on the other side of the coin, it really heavily inspired me to actually want to make that positive change in my own lifestyle with everything that I ate and everything that I drank, just anything and everything that I was putting in my body. I just became extra aware and extra careful with what I was eating and drinking.
You use the word inspire, and I think that's a very important term. You admired your grandfather. You also knew that, okay, granddad, you inspired me in a way of knowing what not to do. So that's inspiration can occur in a lot of different ways. Are you, to use some familiar terms, are you a vegan, vegetarian, or any of those characteristics in your diet?
No, I'm actually I definitely love my protein, like as far as meat protein. I'm definitely one of those guys that loves, his grilled chicken and red meat. I'm not opposed to. Of course, I do try to eat that more in moderation, but I still love, a juicy steak every once in a while. So I do love my meat protein as well. Now, I will say that I tend to eat more organic based and I try to eat more non-GMO. I try to limit as many and as much pesticides in my food and everything I eat as I can. Because I know a lot of those pesticides are really bad for your body, for your insides, and could potentially lead to illnesses and other diseases throughout, your body. So yeah, I try to really limit and put a cap on those pesticides as much as I can. And then in addition to that, I also have a low sodium and low sugar diet and make sure my protein's high with enough fiber and enough vegetables and some fruit throughout the day. And that's how I like to gauge my diet, so to speak.
Roman, you mentioned GMO. Explain that to our audience.
Yeah, so GMOs, also known as genetically modified organisms, those are, not natural, vegetables or fruits, and they're typically not good for your body, and they could affect the makeup of all the cells in your body and can disrupt them and even potentially could lead to cancer and some other types of illnesses inside your body. So it's just one of those things that I've actually learned myself that it's best to limit those things, if not even cut them out of your diet completely.
I think that's very sage advice. I'm going to give our listeners one modified or just one example of a GMO, genetically modified organism. There is a way to genetically modify corn such that when you plant corn, you can also spray that corn with Roundup, and you will not kill the corn, but you will kill the weeds. That's just one application of GMO. Are you, I would say, particularly adept, or do you pay particular attention to nutrition labels to where you know the maximum amount of, say, milligrams of sugar, sodium per day, and that kind of thing? And I'm just going to add, you're talking my language when you say, nope, I enjoy a juicy steak, chicken, and so forth. That's the kind of person I am. But I do know that we just need to be careful and not overindulge.
Yeah, most definitely. So yeah, there is like that limit you want to have, just like with anything in life, anything that's too much or an excess of can be harmful. They do say everything in moderation. So that's definitely true. I will say sugar is one of those things, added sugar specifically. So all the sucrose or added sugars from, candies, sweets, things of that nature, especially you don't want to have any more than up to 36 grams of added sugar a day, if not less than that. You want to try to keep it no more than 36 grams a day, though. By doing that, that will actually reduce your risk of diabetes. It will actually better your collagen in your skin, too, because sugar itself, added sugar anyway, will actually strip away the collagen from your skin on your body and actually accelerate the aging process and also just make it harder to sleep and function throughout your day and throughout your life. So those are just a few solid reasons why it's great to cut and limit that sugar. Also, limiting sugar will actually help reduce your body fat too over time. So it's just really good, to watch what you're eating and watch how many grams of sugar are in each thing that you're eating and even drinking for that matter. When it comes to sodium, that's another thing that is really good to limit in moderation as much as possible. Now, salt, you can have a little bit more of that than sugar, but even with that, you don't want to have in a single given day, you really don't want to have any more than 2,400 milligrams of salt or sodium a day. And that's one of those things that people don't really pay attention to and they really overlook, from day to day when they eat this or drink this. For example, I get like lunch meat at the deli. And if I go there, I'll see a lot of people just getting like turkey or chicken or ham and not paying attention to how much salt is in that. Like it's nuts because I'll personally, when I go up to get my lunch meat, I usually get anywhere from a half a pound to a pound. But in doing so, I always aim or opt for, if not no sodium, at least light sodium or low sodium turkey or chicken breast for lunch meat. Doing that will actually really reduce the sodium count in that overall serving of lunch meat. So that will make it easier to not exceed that limit of 2,400 milligrams of sodium a day. So that's something that you really want to start doing if you're one of those people that goes to the deli and goes to the store and gets lunch meat. So I've noticed a huge difference too in how it tastes. Like you can actually taste the meat whenever you have low sodium or sodium free meat. But whenever you have that just regular standard turkey or chicken or ham, especially from the deli, you can't really taste the meat. It's crazy. You feel like you're just eating salt. Like it's really nuts the difference. Like I don't even know how back then I used to tolerate that because now I cannot even bring myself to actually eat just regular, base turkey or chicken or ham anymore because it's so rich in salt. It's actually gross at this point.
It's very sage advice, Roman. One thing Marty and I have noticed in the last particular several years, salt does enhance the flavor of various foods, but accordingly, what seems to taste good frequently is high in sodium. We have noted that, and it was not until we looked at the nutrition labels we noticed that processed food, what you purchase from the deli in slices by the half pound, a pound, is frequently very high in sodium. And yes,
Oh yeah.
everything in moderation. But there are times that if it tastes good, just go ahead and eat it. And it's not until you're at the end of the day where you realize, oh my goodness, my sodium intake, I had no idea. And sodium and high blood pressure are correlated. And
Exactly.
for anyone who has high blood pressure, there is a possibility, and I'm the antithesis of a medical person, but there is a possibility that you have a high sodium intake. Roman, everything you're saying is spot on that we have got to be very conscious of nutrition labels and that in which we are intaking to our bodies.
Yeah, 100%. So many people just go throughout the day just aimlessly eating and drinking anything in sight. not even knowing, the long-term consequences and outcomes of what they're eating and drinking. And that's what's scary. But yeah, the sooner we do that for ourselves and encourage other people to do that, the sooner we can make a really good positive change in our community with this.
Roman, I want to ask you, and for our listeners, did you just start writing down what you were eating and the value or the sodium, the sugar, and all that, so that you could get used to looking and knowing what to buy and what not to buy after looking at the labels and stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, that's how I actually started doing it when I really first started getting into the aspect of just tracking my nutrition and just being healthy with what I ate and drank. That's what I first started doing, was just writing it down, pen to paper, just the old-fashioned way. Ever since, I've just been putting it in my notes in my phone and tracking it that way, but sometimes I'll even occasionally write it down if I don't have my phone with me. But yeah, that's an excellent way to actually track your calories, your macros. And really, you could even just track your macros with your proteins, fats, and carbs alongside your sugars and sodium intake. And that's a great way of doing it, if you don't have a cell phone right by you all the time. And if you also just like the old-fashioned method anyway, that's a really solid option to really track everything that you're putting in your body, from what you're eating to what you're drinking even.
There are a lot of diet plans available. Are you an advocate of any specific diet plan, or are you the kind of person, Roman, that really you can do it yourself, in that if you know what the maximum, minimum, optimum intake is, can you pretty much control everything yourself? If you are overweight, underweight, can you pretty much control things yourself if you just have the discipline?
Yeah, definitely. You really can. I know a lot of people out there, especially these days in the fitness industry and the fitness realm side of things, people love to push for fad diets, so to speak, like the keto diet, the paleo diet, Atkins diet. The list just goes on and on from there. But really, with that being said, fad diets can work if you want them to, but you don't have to do them. It all does truly come down to and boil down to being in a caloric deficit if you are trying to lose weight, or caloric surplus if you're trying to put on weight and maybe some muscle in the process and strength. So depending on what your goals are, you definitely can do it still without fad diets. You just got to make sure your calories are within check of that set goal that you're trying to set out to achieve. And that's what I found to be the best. Now, I will say, having enough protein though is key. So if there's like a diet, so to speak, that I recommend, it's a high protein diet and whatever you do, because protein's great. Got to maintain that muscle. And if you're trying to build muscle, it's great for that too.
Talk to us about what an optimum protein level is daily. What protein should we have in? I think there are various types of protein. That is, protein from red meat is not necessarily the same as protein from fish. But should we differentiate just like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, protein in itself, I mean, yeah, there are different forms of protein for sure. I do recommend, while protein like shakes can be okay for like a supplement, I recommend getting protein by like the actual foods themselves rather than, protein bars and protein shakes if you can help that. Because while it's not as easy and quick as like a protein shake or a protein bar, it actually is a lot more filling, I've noticed, and it's a lot more satiating, in other words. And from there, I recommend getting, depending on your activity level and really all what you do with your workouts, I recommend at least zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight now for protein. But if you are super athletic and you lift super heavy weights, I really recommend trying to get in 1 gram per pound of your body weight at that point. If you're just super active in the gym and you lift a lot of heavy, weights in the gym. But I do recommend getting, depending on your goals, more lean proteins if you're not trying to, gain a lot of weight. But if you want to have more calories in what you eat, then having some steaks added in can actually be a good option. Having, a couple steaks every week can be a good thing. Also, it's has a lot of creatine in it too. Chicken, but also steak has a lot of creatine. So that's also essential for putting on that muscle and that strength in the process.
We can get protein from the food we eat or from supplements. Is there a major difference in protein from supplements as opposed to protein from the actual food source?
There can be. It depends on what, like what protein powder you have and like the brand of the protein. So for the most part, as far as like the actual dosage and amount in grams of protein, it's usually going to be the same. Like a 4 ounce chicken breast will be close to what 1 scoop of protein powder is. So the amount might, it might differ a few grams of protein. So it might just be a slight difference in regards to that. Now, as long as your protein powder is more natural, doesn't have any artificial flavorings or fillers in it, and it's complete protein, like one that I actually have, and I actually have it with me somewhere in my room, but it's the Garden of Life protein powder. And that's great, has no added sugars, but it's all natural, has that nice little rich chocolate flavor to it. And it's complete protein. It has all the vitamins and nutrients you'd want to in the process of getting that protein. So that I would say is pretty comparable to a 4 ounce chicken breast, but still, just to fill your body up and yourself up a lot better, I still recommend having that, chicken breast in place of protein powder more often. Like I do recommend having protein powder every once in a while, or maybe once to twice in a day, but I don't recommend, having that as like a meal replacement, if that makes sense. But definitely as like, a filler supplement as that's what really supplements are supposed to be anyway. Just a little quick supplement to add in that extra amount of protein that your body needs.
Talk to our audience about body weight. What is a best? What is a good measure of body weight? And how can I most accurately determine if I am overweight and how much weight to lose, how much weight to gain? I just want to know where I am on the best scale, so to speak, and maybe talk to us about body mass index as well.
Yeah, for sure. So when you get your overall body weight, obviously not all that's muscle, not all that's fat. Some of it's probably even water weight in the process. Out of your overall weight that you weigh currently at that day, you want to figure out how much body fat you have. So there's different ways you can actually go about finding that out and discovering that. There's skin calipers, you could use that. One method that I actually really like using that's not really expensive, and it's actually really not expensive at all, and it's still pretty accurate. Now, it's not super convenient, but it's fairly convenient. If your gym has one of those in-body body fat measures that you can step on, and it sends like electrical pulses throughout your body, so you can hold it on the sides and step on it, without any socks or shoes on. And so you do that before eating or drinking anything, even before like having your morning cup of coffee. So you do that. From there, it'll scan, where you're at with your weight and your height. And then from there, it'll show you not just how much you weigh right then, but your overall, body fat percentage and how much of that is lean body mass and how much of that is fat weight. And so from there, you want to be in a body fat percentage that's really, it depends like what you're trying to do, but if you're trying to bulk up, you don't want to be really any more than like 10 to 12% body fat. Now, if you're trying to cut down, you don't really, well, if you're trying to do a show, it's different, but you don't really want to cut below much of 8% if you're trying to cut. So you just got to see where you're at with your body fat percentage to then see how much you want to gain and how much you want to lose from there.
So how important is it for a listener to join a gym, maybe have a coach, and put all this together? Some listeners may be thinking, I can't afford all of that. I live in the country. I don't have a gym close to me. And part of what I'm leading up to, Roman, is excuses versus factual data. Is it necessary to be a member of a gym to do or to have some of the, Kip just used the term exotic exercise equipment? Or if I live in the country, can I do exercises from a tree limb, so to speak?
I love that. That's a great question. So with that, you can do both. It depends on what you have access to. I definitely believe that, there are no actual excuses that you can make as long as you really want it. People do make excuses though, sadly, and they say they can't do this, they can't get this, they can't get that body, they can't lose this much weight or gain this much, muscle and weight. But the thing is, the only one stopping them is them. Like, you can definitely get whatever goal you want. Now, I'll admit, having a gym, having the best of the best equipment, having the leg press machine, the Smith machines, and all those different machines available, and weights and dumbbells and barbells, that's very helpful. And it's better to have that than not, I'll admit, outright, because when you lift weights, heavier weights, it'll challenge your body more. You can put on muscle and strength and mass a lot easier, and even lose a little weight quicker and burn fat quicker that way. But at the same time, though, you can still get benefits that are similar if you're out in the country and you don't really have that equipment. What it comes down to then at that point in time is doing calisthenics or body weight exercises and workouts. And with those, doing maybe more sets, but especially more reps from those said sets, and just really going all in and all out and doing like full body workouts. And if you're trying to let's say you're trying to burn fat, lose weight, burn calories like no one's business, at that time and at that point, I recommend doing a full body circuit of calisthenics. So you could throw in push-ups, diamond push-ups if you really want to challenge yourself. And then also, adding in some jump squats, burpees. It's just a bunch of different, workouts that you can actually do even without gym equipment. And that's what's really cool. You can burn calories, you can burn fat even without the gym, at your own home, in the woods, wherever you're at. Or you could even, put on some muscle too with that. Because calisthenics, a huge myth in the fitness community is that you have to have weights to actually put on muscle. And that's not true. I mean, weightlifting is good for building muscle, of course, but it's not that you have to do it that way. You can still put on muscle by doing push-ups, by doing squats, body weight squats, wall sits. Wall sits are a really good challenging workout for your lower body with your calves and even your glutes and quads to an extent, for not having any weight or any gym. Just going up against the wall and literally doing a wall sit, like acting like you're sitting against the wall. That's a huge workout for burning calories and even putting on some strength and muscle in your lower body. So those are some great exercises you can do without a gym. And yeah, you definitely can get results even without a gym. So really, those people that say they can't do it because they don't have a gym, they just haven't really made the effort and time to make that a reality for wherever they're at. You just got to be resourceful by the end of the day when it comes to that. And that is, I will admit, some people aren't as experienced with like how to do that. So having a coach or a trainer like me or anyone else out there, that's when it really can be helpful and useful to have someone like me or anyone else that does what we do. Because if you're not used to getting the results and the workouts that you need, then we can help guide you to do that, even if you don't have a gym. Most definitely.
I do want to follow up with how a listener would contact you, but I want to ask you just before that, for the person who may have some sort of a health condition, is it advisable to check with a doctor just so you know exactly what your heart condition is and so forth? I'm asking you, Roman, could a person with, let's just say some sort of health condition, could you go about this irresponsibly, this meaning exercise and so forth, consult a doctor just so you know where you are, but really in the context of there are no excuses, go about it in a very reasoned way.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, in those instances and cases, I definitely recommend, and I'm not opposed by any means for, any potential client or any current client to always check in with their doctor if it's something that's, very drastically important. By all means, I definitely let them do that. From there, though, I do craft a plan and I do have them understand that even if there's a certain condition, there's always a way to work around it in one way or another. So if they have some back pain, we can, add in some stretches to help their lower back pain. Let's say they have. There's also different ways to work out successfully and thoroughly without really injuring yourself, or let's say further injuring yourself. So by doing usually more low impact exercises with higher reps, lower weight, that's another huge way of doing it. And just really low impact exercises with a lot of stretching afterwards. So those are really good methods I found that help, clients that are injured or any other potential clients that may have already been injured.
So I think what I heard you just say is every exercise plan that you work with is customized to your client. You will take into consideration whatever the doctor says, and you'll tailor a program very specifically to that person's medical needs, any challenges a person may have. Did I process what you just said correctly?
Yes, very much. That is 100%.
So for the client who says, I like whatever everything that you're saying, I need to contact you, Roman. I'd like for you to be my coach, or at least see if I could work into your schedule. How would our listeners contact you?
For sure. So there's a couple different ways of doing that. You could go to my direct website at romanfisherofficial.com. That's where you can see more about me and what I do and all the clients that I've helped with their before and afters and their overall testimonial videos with their transformations. In addition to that, you can also best reach me on Facebook or Instagram at my username, Roman Fischer Official.
For our listeners, I'll make certain we understand your last name is spelled Fischer. Is that correct, Roman?
That is, yeah.
Roman, I want to ask you, we people that like smoked meat and we like to marinate our meat and stuff, we have to be really careful how we do that because of the sodium in all the mixes and stuff. Do you recommend just plain, don't do anything to your meat, just cook it?
That's a great question. I definitely believe you should obviously, cook it, but I would add in, honestly, light salt. I mean, if you don't like much sodium, then I would say just cook it as is. But if you're one of those people that has to have salt added to everything you eat, which I understand that's, some people's personal preferences, I would recommend getting like a teaspoon measure and looking at, and this is where reading labels is important, just reading the back of that salt shake or whatever seasoning that you're currently going with at that time, and just really thoroughly reading the overall sodium milligram dosage, and then seeing the serving size of that. And then when you see that, then you can pinpoint how much to, take from that and then to sprinkle on. That's how I usually do it. And then that way I can track how many milligrams of sodium I just put in. And from there, I can keep myself from going over 2,400 milligrams, which is like the max daily limit of what you want. And I usually recommend people to not even go half that much. If you can, I mean, just keep it as low as you can for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
We have always used, I say always, as Marty and I have become more aware of our daily sodium intake, we try to limit our intake to 2,000 milligrams and try to keep it actually between 1,500 and 1,800. But I will tell you, Roman, we have become much more conscious of food labels, and I used to think, well, my salt intake has got to be all right because I don't use a salt shaker on the table. Well, little did I realize that everything I eat is already processed with salt. I didn't realize the intake I
Oh
was
yeah.
getting from the food I'm eating.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts. Just we have just salt blindly added to our foods and we're just blindly eating it, it seems. And that, yeah, that's why it's so important that, yeah, we're reading the labels and just like tracking everything that we are eating and drinking just to the T.
Roman, you have a very practical approach to food, nutrition, exercise. I think you might say it's just a matter of making a decision, just do it. And if we're not disciplined enough to do it ourselves, contact Roman. He'll coach you, he'll stay right beside you. And it's a matter of us living and exercising the discipline. But you are a great point of accountability to those listening to us. And I appreciate, on behalf of our listeners, everything you are doing, Roman. You've got a very practical approach to nutrition. Some people, I think, might make it a little more complicated than really what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, that's how I try to make it for anyone and everyone, especially everyone listening here. Just always try to simplify everything as much as you can, and especially when it comes to your diet, really try to pinpoint what it is you're eating and make sure to limit all the stuff that has been really hurting people, all the added sugar, the processed foods, and high sodium count in our foods.
Roman, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for a very practical approach. It took some life trauma, so to speak, through the death of your grandfather, but you've made a great legacy from that you've transitioned, or you have translated what was not necessarily a good part of your life through your grandfather's death, but you've made the very best of that. I want to thank you on behalf of our listeners for having a very practical approach to food and nutrition.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's just great.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life's experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.